Good afternoon. Thank you for watching our live update. Today is Thursday, April 22nd. Today I have a couple of topics I want to talk to you about. Then when I'm done, Vice President of Health Services Will Blackwell has a couple of updates to share with you, and then Kathleen Pender will talk to you about the resident gardens, followed by Tom Henning with a construction update, and then Chaplain David Curtis has our pastoral care segment. So first off, just a quick COVID update. We're pleased to report that we are not aware of any new cases of COVID-19 here on campus amongst our residents or our employees. We continue to test our Parsons Health Center employees weekly due to the positivity rate in Henrico and Richmond, which is currently at 6.2%. It's ticked up slightly over the last couple days. And we'll continue to test weekly until that rate falls below 5%. And then residents in Parsons Health Center are also routinely tested. Will can talk more about that. So far, all of the test results we've gotten over the last 2 weeks have come back negative. Residents in Parsons Health Center, third floor, south and east, that have been in quarantine because of our last positives a few weeks ago. They are in quarantine until Saturday the 24th. So we're really eager for Saturday morning to come along, and those folks will come out of quarantine. That's really good news. One of the two employees who had tested positive a couple weeks ago has returned to work, so that's also really good news. Many of you are asking about our ongoing guidelines as it relates to the restrictions and guidance relative to COVID. We're very happy that we've been able to expand some of our in-person programming, increase our dining to allow reservations of 4 in the marketplace and allow increased visitation in independent living and assisted living. We're eager to open up Kathleen's for lunch. Dinner. I guess it's dinner. You'll see that in the tails today, an announcement about that. So we're eager to do that. As a reminder though, residents of independent living and assisted living, we're asking you as the residents to determine how many visitors your apartment can handle based on the size of the apartment and your abilities to maintain safe social distance. In Monticello and Gables, visitation is limited to 1 person at a time to ensure social distancing. Groups, 2 or more, can be accommodated. We will schedule a visit inside in a common room or outside. To set up those kind of visits, please contact either Sloan Verlander or Ermelinda Chicas, and they'll help you get those visitation visits scheduled. We are still requiring masks for everyone throughout the campus. That's visitors, residents, staff, contractors, everyone at this point. And we'll probably stay that way for a little while at least. In terms of vaccinations, we know many of you are curious about who has or who has not been vaccinated on campus. As we've shared a number of times, nearly all, 98.5 or more of our residents have been fully vaccinated, and for that we're very thankful. Initially we had a vaccination rate of our staff at about 75%, a little more than that. Since those vaccination clinics that we had here on campus, many new residents and a good number of employees have received vaccinations either at the additional clinics that our team, Will Blackwell and others, have organized for folks to either attend a clinic offsite or have some small clinics here. We have seen numbers increase. We've had staff get fully vaccinated both ways, here and outside of Westminster Canterbury. We are working to try to gather and track all the ongoing changes of how many have been vaccinated, and as soon as we get those numbers, we will, and probably next week, we'll be able to give you what our current percentage vaccinated is for our staff. We're working on that. While our care and interest in one another is totally natural and normal, questioning of our employees about their personal health information really should be avoided. Personal health information, including whether you received or didn't receive the vaccine, is considered private, personal, protected health information under the HIPAA laws. HIPAA is the Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act, and the HIPAA rules protect personal, private health information, and vaccination status applies. And so Westminster Canterbury management will not and honestly cannot share vaccination status, and staff cannot be required to disclose if they choose to keep that information private. So we're just going to ask you to respect that, understand that that is a law that we don't have any flexibility with, and quite honestly, it's just private information, and confidentiality applies. Our vaccination, we are continuing to protect you and each other, ourselves, through screening our employees as they arrive each day to work, and educating all of them on how to appropriately use the safety precautions, and continuing to wear masks and social distance, and keep staff and residents apart as much as possible until our vaccination rates are higher. Once our vaccination percentage achieves a certain level, don't know exactly what that level is, and we can feel that our community is confidently protected, then we'll probably be able to modify those guidelines a little bit. But thank you for your care and concern as we continue to encourage everybody to get vaccinated. And we are seeing a lot more participation in the vaccinations, and so that's good news. We're headed in the right direction. Now, one last thing. We're also seeing a number of others, right? Now that everyone can get vaccinated over the age of 16, we are seeing it a lot more with families, visitors, volunteers, contractors, and it's easy now to find appointments, and so we just encourage you, if you have family coming and they haven't yet gotten vaccinated, encourage them to do that now that most everybody can get it. So that's all really good news. As I did last week and will continue to do, we want to continue to try to answer some of the most commonly asked questions about our upcoming Vibrancy expansion project and the Promenade renovation projects. And so today I want to share a little more information. We'll keep doing that. I'm also planning to share some more images with you specifically about the Promenade and the parking garage, since those two elements are coming sooner than the rest. We'll get some more images for you on those in the next week or two. If you haven't yet seen the Narrated Tour video that we produced and are sharing, you can watch it at 4 p.m. on TV 971 every day. So if you haven't seen it, or if your friends haven't seen it, make sure they watch TV 971 at 4 o'clock, and we'll continue to show that. We are planning to share it with the public next week, so you'll have friends and family outside of here who will begin to see that. It'll be on our blog and website starting next week, so look for that. We continue to fine-tune the images and the plans, and as new images come to us, we'll add those and continue to improve that narrated tour as we get closer to the beginning of construction. And we'll also be putting up some image boards as well. Now for three or four of the commonly asked questions. A very common question, especially amongst some of our residents, is what is the overall cost of Vibrancy, and how's the project being paid for? Very good question, and one that we've spent a lot of time and work making sure we understand the answer to. The overall construction cost for the Vibrancy project, which is the Vital Living Center, the parking garage, the apartments above the Vital Living Center, the village apartments, the clubhouse, all of that construction, the total construction cost is approximately $130 million. Plus there's some what we call soft costs, right? That's architecture costs, engineering costs, long list of consultants, there's permits, there's fees, and there's marketing and sales support costs, plus a lot of others. That, you add in the soft costs to the total construction costs, and it brings the total of the Vibrancy project to somewhere in the range of very close to $160 million for this project. The funding of this project, how we pay for it, comes from three sources, essentially. The first source is what we call an equity contribution. It's a cash contribution that Westminster Canterbury Corporation is going to pay into the project. It's like the, if you think of it like a house, this is the down payment, the piece of equity that we're going to contribute. That we plan to fund essentially the components of this campus renovation that we were going to need to do regardless of whether or not we added new units. We had to solve the parking problem, and we needed to invest in new fitness and wellness spaces and new salon spaces. We would have needed to do that irregardless if we expanded or not. That element of the project, the cash that will be contributed to make that investment, comes essentially from saved funds from our investment portfolio. So over the last number of years, we've earned substantial investment returns, and we put those returns aside, and we've held that cash to make this contribution to the project. The second source of funds for this project is the entrance fees from the new units, right? We're going to have 100 new units. Each of those will have an entrance fee, and those entrance fees associated with the new units will be used to fund the construction of this project. And the third and final source of cash will be a new debt that we will, and that new debt will come in the form of a tax-exempt bond, and the monthly fees from the new units will cover the ongoing debt payments of that new debt piece. We want to be clear that current residents, you all that live here, your monthly fees are not paying for any part of Vibrancy. You're not paying for the construction of it, and you're not paying for the ongoing maintenance after construction. Also want to be clear that Westminster Canterbury Foundation is not and will not raise any funds to cover any of the new residences. Gifts to the foundation are used to help provide a margin of excellence in terms of programming and other efforts to ensure that you all live the best lives possible, but not for any capital going into this project. The only time in the recent history that we've used any foundation funds for construction is for the Spiritual Center, where a $4 million funds from $4 million worth of that was raised to pay for part of the Spiritual Center, but there won't be any foundation funds used on the construction of the Vibrancy project. There have been, and there will continue to be, a number of financial tests that we need to go through to ensure that this project funds itself and is beneficial to the organization as a whole. And we're really happy to say that Vibrancy does fund itself, and it creates a benefit of scale as we achieve the new 100 units that will benefit this campus going forward for a long time. So that's really the test, is it beneficial to the organization in the long term, and does it pay for itself? And it does. Many of you have asked, how will this project benefit current residents? The spaces designed into the Vibrancy project, into the Vital Living Center, are what the current residents, you all, have told us that you wished for or want as you've used the current spaces we have. Thanks to input from past resident satisfaction surveys, the work of resident board committees and staff here on campus that work directly with residents every day, we've gathered that information, and that's what's fed into the design plans to allow us achieving the goals of of creating an opportunity for everyone to live the best life possible. And that's where all this information has come from. Now, without question, the most important question being asked is, how are we planning for the impacts of the construction on the current residents, on you all that live here? As with all construction projects that happen on this campus, there's going to be some disruption, and some residents are going to be much more impacted than others. We established a number of staff-led expansion task forces during 2020. And those task forces are helping us plan both in terms of preparing for the disruption and making sure that programs and services run well through the construction and the disruption associated with construction. The goals of these task forces is to stay on top of the issues that may impact the way we provide services and programs around campus. Each task force has a representative, a resident representative, to help provide some input. The task forces are representative of dining, facilities, new resident move-ins, public relations and communications, resident relocations, resident satisfaction, campus safety, spiritual center and pastoral services throughout the project, staff office relocations. We will have some staff that need to be relocated, both temporarily and permanently, technology and AV issues, transportation and courtesy services, including shuttle services through the project, and then wellness and vital living center task force. So large numbers of staff involved and a good number of residents involved in helping us through those things. In the coming weeks and months, we're going to be sharing with a number of different resident groups, especially those that are the most impacted by these plans. We will be sharing with them our plans in terms of how we're going to accommodate for the disruption and do our best to maintain both a very high degree of safety during this project and protect as much quality of life as possible during this period where it's going to be difficult at times. And we understand that, and we're going to do all we can to make it as tolerable as we can for everybody involved. Lastly, for today, we occasionally hear questions about the promenade. Why are we renovating it? What is it going to be when it's finished? And what's that going to be like? So a number of years ago, I think 4 or 5 years ago, the Westminster Canterbury team began thinking about renovating the promenade. It's been delayed a couple of times. Our current culinary team has created a plan that has the promenade space, that whole area, essentially becoming 4 different separate dining venues. The tower lobby and current promenade dining areas are going to be renovated and expanded so that we can create opportunities that produce a lot of socialization, as well as offer you a number of different dining options. There's going to be a new coffee bar, which will be a coffee bar social area during the day. It'll be a cocktail lounge that connects indoor space with outdoor space on the ellipse in the evenings. There'll be a flexible dining space, more out along the glass, along the ellipse, that will provide opportunities for gathering, floor get-togethers, other special events. That's one of the dining options that we've really lacked, is a place where groups of 15 to 30 can come together for a floor meal or a gathering. We don't really have a good space for that, so we're going to have a couple of spaces that allow for that. Then there's a small dining space. We're calling it the small venue. We have not come up with a name for that space yet, that will feature farm-to-table inspired menus with multiple courses. Small space, so limited numbers, but nice wine displays, a fireplace, and a really comfortable, intimate feel. The main dining room, the promenade room, will feature a situation where you'll be able to see into the kitchen. You'll be able to see the action in the kitchen, and it'll be more of a seated service restaurant than what it has been as a buffet. We won't have any buffet options at the end of the Promenade project. And then we'll have a new private dining room. The Virginia room, which has been a very underutilized room adjacent to the Promenade. This new room will be more visible, more accessible, and renovated to be a very nice room for private dining events. The Promenade project will be kicking off in June when the construction walls will go up. That closes off the Promenade space, and the project's slated to take 10 months. So it's going to close in June, probably be finished in the May timeframe, April or May next year. So I know that's a lot of information. That's all for me today. I hope it's helpful. We will be sharing more information next week. Next week, we'd like to share with you more details about the Promenade and walk you through those images so you get a better sense of each of those spaces. That's it for me. Next up is Will Blackwell.
Good afternoon, everyone. I have 2 updates to share with you today. The first one is dining update in the Mary Morton Parsons Healthcare Center. Effective today, residents in the Parsons Healthcare Center can now start making reservations for lunch only in the marketplace by dialing extension 6030. Let me repeat that one more time. The residents of Parsons Healthcare Center can now make reservations for lunch only in the marketplace, and we're very happy and excited about getting that opportunity. This is great news for us. Remember, at this time, we cannot serve outside guests, private duty sitters, or family members in the marketplace. You may have lunch with your resident neighbors or friends within Westminster Canterbury Richmond. We know space is limited, and we would like to personally thank the dining team under Scott Jonte's leadership for making this happen for the residents in the healthcare center. The second update, everyone should have received a memo dated April 16th, 2021, in reference to our new medical director at Westminster Canterbury Richmond. Why do we need a medical director at Westminster Canterbury Richmond? In the Mary Morton Parsons Healthcare Center, it is a requirement and a federal regulation to hire and maintain a medical director. We are regulated by CMS because we accept payment from Medicare and Medicaid, therefore we must meet this requirement. The facility must have a licensed physician who serves as the medical director to coordinate medical care in the facility, provide clinical guidance and oversight regarding the implementation of resident care policies. The medical director collaborates with the facility leadership, myself, staff, and other practitioners and consultants to help develop and implement and evaluate resident care policies and procedures that reflect current standards of care and practice. The medical director helps the facility identify, evaluate, and address and resolve medical and clinical concerns and issues that may affect resident care, medical care, or quality of life, or are related to provisions of services by physicians and other licensed healthcare practitioners. The medical director is a member of the Health Services Committee of the Corporate Board and also sits as the chair of the Quality Assurance and Performance Improvement Committee. The medical director also reviews all independent living and assisted living applicants' health assessments before admission to Westminster Canterbury Richmond. It's been a pleasure working with Dr. Danny Felty as the medical director at Westminster Canterbury since 2013. We appreciate his diligence for quality care, leadership, and willingness to work closely with the residents, nursing staff, and other physicians at Westminster Canterbury Richmond. Westminster Canterbury Richmond is pleased to announce that effective June the 1st, our new medical director will be Dr. James Lee Wright. Dr. Wright received his PhD and MD from the VCU Medical School in Richmond, Virginia, and holds a Master's of Arts in Theological Studies from Union Presbyterian Seminary, as well as a Certificate of Bioethics from Loyola University in Chicago. He specializes in geriatrics and is a medical director at 2 other facilities in Richmond, Our Lady of Hope and the Memory Center. Dr. Wright is widely published in a number of peer-reviewed journals, including the Journal of the American Geriatric Society and the Journal of American Medical Directors Association. He has a particular interest in improving quality of care and quality of life for those living in long-term care and assisted living settings. He writes and speaks on the intersection of religion, ethics, and medicine. You may recognize Dr. Wright as he was a previous speaker at Westminster Canterbury Richmond's Life Planning Series session on advanced medical direct decisions in November of 2016. Dr. Wright is married to Dr. Jenny Webb White, a palliative care physician with Bon Secours Mercy Health System, and is the proud father of 4 children who are either attending or have graduated from UVA, VMI, and William & Mary, with one who is currently at Goochland High School. He is active in the music ministry at River Road Presbyterian Church, and he's also in a band called Weekender, whose first album is dropping at the end of April. Dr. Wright is thrilled to be joining Westminster Canterbury Richmond, and I look forward to working with him. Dr. Reed, Dr. Cook, and Kathy Pack will continue seeing residents at Westminster Canterbury Richmond. The change in medical directors has no effect on their partnership with us. Dr. Wright will be accepting new residents only in the Mary Morton Parsons Healthcare Center. He is not going to be able to work in the independent living clinic due to his schedule. He will be working with Dr. Reed and Kathy Pack in the healthcare center. If you have any questions, I'm available. Kathleen Pender is next. Thank you.
Good afternoon. The Tower resident garden plots located next to the Todd Greenhouse will temporarily relocate to the Ellipse as we prepare for construction this summer. As you will see on this slide, the temporary location of the Tower resident gardens will be on the top left corner of the Ellipse, shown highlighted in red on this aerial view as you face the Ellipse with your back to the promenade. The resident garden plots will not be placed on the croquet court. On Thursday, April 22nd, and Friday, April 23rd, our grounds crew will oversee the construction of the raised wooden planter beds that will serve as temporary garden plots for our Tower residents for the summer of 2021. As you will see on this slide, this is a picture of the raised wooden planter beds that will serve as the temporary garden plots. The grounds crew will assist in setting these new planter beds in place, filling with garden soil, and coordinating the reworking of irrigation heads and the installation of new water hydrants to make the space ready for Tower resident gardeners. We anticipate beginning to transplant plant materials from the existing Tower resident gardens to the new temporary location at the Ellipse on Tuesday, April 27th. I'll repeat that date. Tuesday, April 27th. We anticipate beginning to transplant plant materials from the existing Tower resident gardens to the new temporary location at the Ellipse. The grounds team is happy to assist residents with digging, transplanting, and transporting plant materials from the current Tower garden plots to the new temporary planter beds at the Ellipse. The grounds team will utilize our carts and trailers to move plant materials to the new area by resident request. If you would like assistance, please contact me, Kathleen Pender, at 264-6045 or kpender, Pender, at wcrichmond.org to set an appointment. Lucy Lee Cruz, the Landscape Garden and Greenhouse Committee Chair and Tower Resident Garden Plot Liaison, will assist me and our team with coordination of new temporary resident garden planter bed assignments. As you will see in this slide, the aerial location of the new permanent Tower resident garden plots will be at the back of Tower Lot 2 and 3 and behind Glebe 1. The large Haliasmanthus hedge will be removed, opening up additional space. We are currently working through the permitting process for the new permanent Tower resident garden location with the City of Richmond. As shown in this slide, the detailed plan for the construction of the new garden plots in the new location, the new plan for the new garden plots to be constructed using retaining wall stone block, similar to the existing courtyard resident garden plots located behind the Gables building. We also plan to place a garden tool shed equipped with cubbies similar to the current tool shed. Our goal is to complete the permitting process with the City of Richmond this summer and to deliver this permanent space to Tower residents for gardening by fall of 2021. We are very excited that we will have a dedicated, safe space for our Tower residents to garden in this summer and are eager to share additional information as we work through the final details for this project. If you have any questions, please do not hesitate to contact me. In addition, I'd like to share with you that we will be moving forward with the removal of the large willow oak tree at the ellipse around the 1st of June. While this has to be removed due to the future constructions, there are plans for repurposing the wood from the tree into the promenade and other projects. After further conversation with our team of arborists and with the Vibrancy construction team, we understand the process for drying the tree will require 2 summers cure time. Also, just a little reminder that if you got an early start on summer plantings this year, we are expecting a potential frost tonight. So please don't forget to cover your tender perennials and herbs like basil, dill, and your tomatoes, and happy Earth Day. Next up is Tom Henning.
Good afternoon. I'm going to talk about a couple areas. First is the Tower Lounge. We have TVs that have been installed and are getting programmed the remaining part of this week. And we had to complete all of the finishes to measure for the new wood shutters that are going to be manufactured in 8 to 10 weeks, and installation to follow shortly after they are delivered to the installer for installation. I will update you on the timing of this as I know more from the manufacturer. The remaining lounge furniture will be installed this week and into early next week as we get things set up. For the Tower laundries, the renovations of the 1st, 3rd, 5th, and 7th floors are underway right now. Residents that are affected on these floors may use the newly renovated laundry facilities on the even floors during the renovation time. We will have an updated schedule once the demolition is completed early next week, and we will post this date next Thursday. We will also be working on some issues we have learned from the initial renovation, such as modifying the ironing boards and the cabinets and offering freestanding ironing board as an option. Larger paper and plastic recycling receptacles, providing labels on the cabinets for trash, are some examples of what we have learned from the previous installs. I've also had some residents sharing with me their initial findings, and I want to thank Ann Nightow, Mary Lee McGregor, and Claudia Kidwell specifically for their assistance in getting feedback to me and developing some directions and getting started on using these new machines. They can tell you these machines work. However, there is some special care in how you do your laundry. For example, the washing machine uses less water, so you need to modify your soap. You first need to be sure you're using a high efficiency, and it's on the label HE on the cover of the bottle, liquid soap. There is also special location in the detergent drawer for your liquid softener and bleach that will properly dispense during the wash cycles. The washer and dryers also show the time your wash will take and to clean and dry. So this is nice for your planning to leave and return to get your clothes. Finally, we're waiting on some additional furniture chairs that are waiting on the foam to arrive to their factory, and they will provide a date once they have this in production. The remaining decorations that will be installed next week, along with the freestanding ironing boards and final cabinet modifications. Please call me with any additional suggestions, questions that you may have as we finalize the renovations of the tower laundry rooms. And up next is David Curtis.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm David Curtis, one of the staff chaplains here at Westminster Canterbury of Richmond, and a few pastoral care updates for you. We continue to work on the sound and the picture quality for the services that we broadcast from the sanctuary and from the chapel. We are currently working with a contractor and with Westminster Canterbury staff to improve the quality of both. We have heard from you about the issues with the sound and the picture quality, and we apologize. We do want you to know that we have heard you and that we are working to correct these issues as quickly as we can. This coming Sunday at 4 o'clock, we will show a sermon for every Sunday. Father Michael Reniger from St. Mary's Catholic Church will preach on Acts chapter 4, verses 5 through 12. Again, that will be at 4 p.m. on TV 970 this coming Sunday. Our Music in the Sanctuary series continues. We are so very grateful to our resident musicians who have offered these sessions. On Tuesday, April the 27th at 11 a.m., Susie Frazier will play standards that will be very familiar to you. We have plenty of seats, so please call me at extension 5179 to reserve a seat. And I would also like to offer a thank you on behalf of the entire pastoral care department to Nancy Bain, Susie Frazier, Sally Maynard, and Annette Sparks for giving of their time and their talent during these programs. And speaking of music, the Pastoral Care Department and the Theater Department are pleased to announce a pop-up concert next Wednesday, April the 28th at 2 p.m. in the sanctuary. Bob Cafaro, son of resident Kit Cafaro, is a professional cellist and has very graciously offered to play at Westminster Canterbury during a visit next week. Tickets are not required. However, we do recommend you try to arrive at the sanctuary by 1:50 to get seated. Again, cellist Bob Cafaro will perform a 30-minute concert next Wednesday, April the 28th at 2 p.m. in the sanctuary. Please come. And now hear these words from the book of the prophet Amos, from the 5th chapter and the 24th verse. But let justice roll down like waters, and righteousness like an ever-flowing stream. The word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. This past Monday, I had a conversation with friends about optimism versus hope. Rabbi Jonathan Sachs, the former chief rabbi of the United Kingdom, wrote in To Heal a Fractured World, The Ethics of Responsibility, the following. Optimism, he wrote, and hope are not the same. Optimism is the belief that the world is changing for the better. Hope is the belief that together we can make the world better. I have been dwelling on these words for the past few days. There are days that I'm not very optimistic, but I always remain hopeful. Perhaps one day hatred and war will cease. Perhaps one day the hungry will have sufficient food and those in poverty will have sufficient wages. But I don't think that this will happen by next Tuesday at 4:43 p.m. I also believe that we can and do make a difference in this world. In small ways or in large ways, each of us makes this world better, more peaceful, and a bit kinder. My faith has taught me and continues to teach me hope and how to hope. Hope requires work and engagement and sometimes sacrifice. It calls us to do things such as marching for justice or perhaps working for equal pay for equal work. It asks us to plant trees, not for our benefit, but for those who come after us. Hope gives us the chance to see the world as God sees it, and hope gives us the courage to make that world a reality. Today and evermore, may hope abound in you. I offer you this blessing of hope from Jan Richardson. So may we know the hope that is not just for someday, but for this day, here, now, in this moment that opens to us. Hope not made of wishes, but of substance. Hope made of sinew and muscle and bone. Hope that has breath and a beating heart. Hope that will not keep quiet and be polite. Hope that knows how to holler when it is called for. Hope that knows how to sing when there seems little cause. Hope that raises us from the dead, not someday, but this day, every day, again and again and again. Thank you for joining us today, and please join us for our next 3 p.m. update next Thursday, April the 29th.